Hey guys, it is Esti and Justin from Not For Long Media.
If you like the video you're about to watch, be sure to like the video itself and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it.
Enjoy the video, and also don't forget to follow us on our socials at Not For Long Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
What is going on, everybody? This is your host for Not For Long Media, Colin Thompson. I hope everyone had a great weekend, a quiet weekend in the NFL, but a lot going on everywhere else. The first quiet weekend in the NFL when minicamp starts. It was funny today. I was listening to McAfee show on the way in. Jack in the back is joining us. Justin Ayers is joining us. And I was listening to the McAfee show on the way in, and he's like, this is the weekend to travel. This is the weekend where there's no breaking news. Coward went to Italy for a week. This person went here. They were making fun of AJ Hawk, their co-host, and we're going to get in some stuff at the McAfee show. It was awesome to listen to him today. He hasn't been in my wheelhouse and rotation of stuff, but I wanted to mix it up and try some new things, a little research and development, a little R&D for this podcast. Pat does a great job, but talked about the schedule release, what we're going to get into today with that as well, and a lot of different things. But before I do, Jack, how we doing today?
Doing good. It's the playoffs are heating up across the board. We're starting to hit the conference finals, almost championship time. We're starting to hit that time in May where things are going from 70 to 80 degrees. Things are heating up both literally and physically. It's a great time to be a sports fan, as always.
Yes, it is. Jay, how you doing?
It's good. It's good to be back. I've made my long-awaited return to the Not For Long Media airwaves after, I have a pretty cool baseball podcast going on concurrently with this. So it's always cool to hop on here and see you guys. So I'm really excited.
So Jack is now the official co-host of the Colin Thompson Show. This is the official first episode of the Colin Thompson Show, and we are honored to have the former co-host and unofficial and official co-host of Not For Long Media, Justin Ayers, back with us.
Well deserved for Jack. Yeah,
everybody does a little bit of everything here at Not For Long Media. We are grinding, we are making it work, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. I want to talk about our official sponsor, Not For Long Media. That's Wealth Advisory Services. If you don't know them, you should. They're located everywhere. They represent people, and they give advice and advisory to everybody in every state, not everybody, every state across the country. WealthAdvisoryServices.com. If you don't know them, you should. Check them out. Paul, Dave, and their team, 100 years of experience. I'm so fortunate to work with them. We're moving to our house this weekend. That's because of those guys at Wealth Advisory Services. Very thankful. Check them out again, WealthAdvisoryServices.com. Give them a call. Doylestown to Cape May. Really convenient. So, guys, before we touch on anything, I'd even put in the notes, and that's all me, but that's how we do it here. I want to talk about the schedule release. Again, I was listening to McAfee show today, and that's why it dinged my head this morning about Pat McAfee was going through the schedule and was talking about what players would look at on the schedule. And I thought it'd be great for us to discuss that from my perspective of what a player, in my role, a player in my role, what I'm looking for. So when you pull up the Carolina Panthers schedule, the first thing I look for is, right, who we're playing the first game. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But the second thing I'm really looking for is where we're playing and when we're playing. So last year, nostalgia-wise, we played Buffalo in December. And most players, if you're a specialist, if you're a quarterback, that may not be the most exhilarating thing. But for me, I was so excited. I was inactive for the game, but I was so excited to get there to see that. There was a little flurry during, warm-ups. It's exactly what you would want Buffalo to be on a nice snowy day. It wasn't that bad. And the year before, we played Green Bay in December, and both early in the season, you're looking at that schedule like, oh boy, better bundle up for these. But those teams bank on that. Those teams bank on that cold weather. They bank on that thought in your head. So from my perspective, it was really cool when I looked at our schedule and, we're playing in Seattle later in the year. I just remember growing up and just seeing those like Green Bay and Seattle games, and it's like rainy or snowy. We play there December 11th. We get to play Pittsburgh late in the year in Carolina, which is still cool. We get to go to Baltimore in late November, which is super cool. Those like kind of nostalgia things for me are what I get excited about. And then I get excited about playing in Tampa January 1st because it's going to be warmer, which is awesome. You love those late, rather play Tampa in Tampa late in the year instead of earlier in the year due to weather. So a few things like that. You play the Giants earlier in the year in September, so the weather's going to be nicer there. So I look for, first off, I look for who we're playing first. So we play the Cleveland Browns. And then I look for who we're playing, when we're playing them, the time of year, the location we're traveling to based off of weather. And then lastly, I look at the holidays. So we play Christmas Eve on a Saturday, which is cool. When our bye week is, when our Thursday night football game is. So just little things like that. It's nothing crazy. And then honestly, deep down inside, I look at who we're playing defensive end wise and who I need to block and when we need to block them and what time of year. So lots of fun with there. That's just a little tidbit for me and kind of my insight that Pat was talking about when he was a punter and how he looked at things. But that's my insight from a tight end, third, fourth string tight end in the NFL. And it's fun. I'm excited. It's great how the NBA staggers the drama from the draft to the season release to a little bit of quiet time now. And now mandatory minicamp will show up, and then who didn't show up and who needs a contract and who's going to be traded. All that stuff will come up. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you too bearing with me as I talk through that. We're going to send it to Jack for a little NBA update.
It has been wild in the NBA. I mean, the biggest thing probably was the Phoenix Suns collapse against the Dallas Mavericks last night. It was just a show. Villanova legend Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, they just tore them apart. Spencer Dinwiddie as well off the bench. They almost outscored the Suns, just those three. Luka Doncic outscored the Suns by himself the first quarter. I think it was the first half even. And it was just completely unbelievable performance from the Mavericks when nobody really expected much around Jason Kidd to start the season. Now you're going in Luka against Golden State. Great storyline. It's going to be a fantastic. I think you'll, especially Colin, like the Miami-Boston series, just defense. That's the name of both of these teams. Just electric defense from both these guys. With Robert Williams, great defensive five. Bam Adebayo. It's going to be a great matchup. We got Marcus Smart, of course. Jimmy Butler in Miami. That's going to be a great defensive matchup on their end. And I mean, Golden State's looking really good. They're finally hitting their stride. Gary Payton II, who's probably their best defender on the perimeter, is going to be coming back. They're really hitting their stride. Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson just found himself in that electric Game 6 showing, dropping 30 points to close out Memphis. I'm not even going to – the Sixers, it's just – it is what it is at this point. I think they'll be fine next season. They'll fix some things up. There are already rumors that they're looking to trade for another third star, whether that be Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal, or whoever. Like, there always is rumors.
Who's the dream player that you want the Sixers to go after this year?
I don't think it's existent. That's the thing. Like, I feel like it would be the best thing for this team would be an upgraded version of Tobias Harris, an elite guy in the wing, because Harden and Max, you don't need anything more from your guards. Maxi's going to take the next step in score. You need scoring, but you don't need it from the guards. Harden's the perfect facilitator. Maxi's the perfect two guard as he continues to grow and he plays as he's played this season. Embiid will be good. It would just be an upgrade over Tobias Harris, which I don't really think there is, to be honest. LaVine and Beal are great, but I mean, if you move, you're probably going to have to move Maxey and Harris both out in a deal, and I don't know if that's much of an upgrade when you're moving both of those guys plus whatever. Danny Green's injury is going to create a disabled players exception that will help them boost their bench big time, along with a mid-level exception. So they'll have $16 million to upgrade that bench, what they desperately need to do. So there's hope in Philly, as always, no matter the outcome. But, I mean, with the teams that are left, that Boston-Miami series is just – I hate both teams just as a Philly guy, but, like, that's going to be great basketball.
It will be. I'm excited to watch some real basketball for once instead of one-on-one ball, which James Harden gets into during the playoffs, and that is not good for the Sixers. I think what you said there about James Harden is the perfect mover of the basketball, maybe during the regular season when there's a little bit more space, but I don't know in the playoffs. I was with my father-in-law this weekend, and he's a Houston Rockets fan, and he was like, I told you this was going to happen. So we'll see what happens with the Sixers. I do think Doc Rivers is the answer. I do think that Philly is drama, which is great, and great fans. I do think Philly wants to make a reaction, a gut knee-jerk reaction, but he's a Hall of Fame basketball coach. He's a really good coach. Who are you going to sign? He knows the players. Like, there's a part of sports about developing, drafting, signing, having one constant, and that's always good to have a head coach that you're going to trust in and do that. I feel the same way about Coach Will here in Carolina, building it the right way instead of just knee-jerk reaction, especially when it comes to a guy like Doc Rivers, who's a Hall of Fame coach. So, Jack, I appreciate the NBA update. Lots going on in the NBAs are, down to 4 teams, which is awesome and crazy. And there's a lot of young talent. There's a lot of older talent. There's a lot of players that have a lot to prove. I heard today Steph Curry, no finals MVP ever, and he's won a lot of championships. So it should be fun to see what he does against the Mavericks. Great to see a guy like Brunson, a guy that people thought was never going to play in the NBA, or at least play like the way he is now, is doing that in Dallas. Him and Luka. So a lot of fun storylines for sure. We're going to send over to our very own, Not For Long Media's finest, Breaking Bats co-host, Justin Ayers, for a little update with Breaking Bats and a little update with some things going around Major League Baseball.
Yeah, we'll start in baseball. It wouldn't be me talking about baseball if I didn't bring up the Pittsburgh Pirates, because they did something really cool over the weekend. So they were no hit, which isn't the cool part, against the Cincinnati Reds on Sunday, but they won, and they became the 6th team to ever win a game without recording a single hit, in the first since 2008. They had 6 walks, and they got a run on a fielder's choice. So the Reds have this really good young starting pitcher, Hunter Green, was walking everybody, and then Pittsburgh came up. I think the bases were loaded, and like fielder's choice, run scores, and it was just when you like, first of all, I think combined no hitters are kind of lame to begin with, so it would have been cooler if he would have finished it out. But to throw a no hitter and to still lose, it's the most demoralizing thing. And then you add it on to the fact that the Reds are the most like demoralizing team to follow in baseball right now. It was just a bad day. So if you know a Reds fan, just call them and check on them.
That is a tough day. Brian O'Grady's former team there. That's a tough day in the office. Breaking news, too. Not breaking for us here, Not For Long Media, but congrats to Brian, our co-host at Breaking Bats, one of the founders of Breaking Bats. Jack's wearing the hat. We're going to be selling that hat, folks, online. Check it out, notforlongmedia.com. An awesome, real authentic, great patch, not 47 hat, classic baseball hat that you need for this summer. Brian and his wife welcomed in a little girl. Unbelievable. Congrats to Brian. Brian came back. Can you talk about that, Justin? Talk about his process of how he came back and now he's heading back to Japan.
He was on high alert there for, it felt like weeks, waiting for the birth of his daughter. But yeah, and then he flew over. I think he was here for 2 days is all he could really afford to come over for. Obviously the team knew about this like before he signed, so that part was cool. And then he's currently doing a 3-day mandatory quarantine with COVID stuff over there in Japan before he can resume baseball activities. But yeah, very, very cool. Very congratulations to Brian and his wife, Delaney.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Jay, what else do you have for us going on in the baseball world?
So this is cool for all you Albert Pujols fans out there. So he's 42 now. He's a Cardinals DH, pinch hitter kind of thing. Well, he actually finished the game as a pitcher in the 9th inning over the weekend. The first time he's ever pitched in his 22-year career. He gave up a 3-run home run and a solo home run, but he got 3 outs. He was throwing under 50 miles an hour. And I don't know why he volunteered to do it, but he did. And it was fantastic and weird. And I just love when position players pitch like that, because everything like that is just hilarious to watch. But I have a question for both of you guys. If you were called upon to throw a major league inning, how fast could you throw it? Because Albert was like 47.
Like 50s, 60s.
So you're saying you're throwing it harder than Albert?
Was that?
You're saying you're throwing it harder than a 42-year-old Hall of Famer?
It's a 42-year-old Hall of Famer.
It wasn't
you also have to think like how hard was he really going on the mound? You have to think.
I think I would be able to get over that mile an hour. I know I could. Would I be able to throw a strike? Would I be able to throw it over the plate? Would I be able to throw it from the mound? I think we see it all the time. People go out in the mound that are, whatever, just throwing out a first pitch. We've seen 50 Cent. We've seen them all, right? That have been good, bad, and indifferent. When you walk on that mound and you step and your first step takes you down towards the plate and down a hill and you have to throw, that is a new motion. That is not like throwing a football. That's not like throwing a baseball in the yard. So I would probably one hop a couple. I would probably sail a couple, and there would be someone on first base before I could get a ball over the plate. And I think I'm a semi-accurate throw over the football of a baseball. I can have a baseball, but I just think the sport, when it comes to toughness, it's not underrated because everybody knows how hard it is to hit a baseball, but how about to throw a baseball consistently the way these guys do it? So prop to Albert. I mean, that's impressive. What about you, Jay? Are you ripping it across the plate with any more speed than the great Albert Pujols?
I mean, I think so. I mean, 47 is nothing. You could like accidentally throw. I think it was all like he was doing like breaking pitches, so all like weird loop and kind of arc to him.
It's called the ephus pitch.
Yep, he was doing a little ephus. I think I could probably hit 60s or 70s, maybe.
Yeah, I think I could hit that number, but again, that ball would be in the left bleachers.
Yeah, most of his were.
Yeah, so I guess it's different. What's different?
He's out there having a good time. The Cardinals are up by like a dozen, so yeah, who cares?
Oh man, that's such good stuff. I love it. What else you got, Jay?
This is cool. Shohei Ohtani of the LA Angels. He became the third Japanese player to ever hit 100 home runs. He's the second player in Major League history with 100 home runs and 250 strikeouts. And the other one's Babe Ruth. The Angels are killing it. Him, Mike Trout, they're tied for first, I think, in the AL West right now. But I just think it's cool. I love everything Shohei Ohtani does. And he had his 100th on Saturday, and I think he had his 100th and first on Sunday. So this guy's a home run machine.
What a machine he is.
Best thing going right now.
Are we getting him on Breaking Bats? Will we have a translator for that?
I want Brian to bring on some of his Japanese teammates like that.
He should. He should.
We need to petition. He's got probably a handful of American guys over there with him, but he's like talked about throwing around the idea of having some of his like Japanese guys maybe bring the translator on, but I would love that. I'm so curious about that.
Right? Let's do it. Let's dive it. We got to do some sort of maybe like a food review with one of the guys, like something different, like take advantage of the fact that he's over there. Like we've talked about before. You guys have done a great job making that work. For those at home, those that don't know at home, that may just listen to Brian. I know you guys are talking about what goes on over there, but Brian is a day ahead of Justin. Props to Justin and the team at Breaking Bats for making that work, because I know it is not easy. I know it is not normal, but hey, man, it's got you up earlier, got you up late. You get your work done during the day, get a little Breaking Bats time. You're balancing all right.
I was telling him I need like one of those world clocks behind me on the wall that just has like maybe on like a piece of Scotch tape Japan time, so I can know what time it is. Because sometimes I'll text him and I'm like, oh crap, it's like 2 a.m. where he's at. So you're not gonna get a response in a timely fashion.
Is there any more MLB updates, Jay, before you? So let's talk a little Breaking Bats. What do you got? What's been your favorite moment of Breaking Bats? I know that's such a general question, but it's been so fun being a part of the ride with you guys and just seeing guys like Hosmer on there and Musgrove and then Ben and Woods. Like they're your first couple episodes there, and have radio hosts on, and then now have MLB All-Stars on. Is there a favorite moment for you?
I think it's just like overall, just getting to learn more about so many fascinating guys. Obviously having Brian's like incredible connections, especially like the Padres people, like Hosmer and Musgrove and all those guys. Like it's crazy, like how cool it is for Brian to like know and get to be friends with all these guys. And like, if he didn't have the podcast, he would just have like awesome conversations with them in his own time, but to like have it on a podcast and have other people be able to listen to it, I think that's really cool. And I'm slowly trying to build in some of the people that I have in my baseball Rolodeck from my time around the podcast game. We had Greg Amsinger from MLB Network was last week's episode. He's my BFF. So I'm helping out a little bit, but I think it's cool just getting to hear like, and just like, even like the first 10, 15 minutes of like, whenever Brian has like Musgrove or Hosmer on, just getting to hear like them, like shoot the breeze and like catch up kind of. It's really cool. So I've enjoyed every episode. Some under the radar, funny episodes. Matt Strahm, the Red Sox relief pitcher we had on, he's fascinating. He's like a baseball card aficionado, but he's also like a JUCO. Like we had the clip on TikTok that had over 1 million views was him because he almost got cut from his JUCO baseball team. So it's weird, funny stuff like that. Just learning about these guys, it's been the best part of it.
The most rewarding thing. And don't take this the wrong way, Christian McCaffrey is the biggest guest. He's a friend, so it's unique, but he's the biggest guest when it comes to followers, the whole nine coming on. But Christians are unbelievable and rewarding. They really are. But when you have someone on that you do not expect something from, I don't want to say you go in preconceived notions, but you kind of have a feel of the personality of the person maybe, or you listen to, they've been on a podcast before, so you know some of their stories, and you're going to kind of ask them again, maybe a different way to kind of get the same story because it's really good stuff. But when you have someone on like, trying to think and compare it to what we've had a little bit more guests. It's a little bit older of a podcast, but when you least expect it, it's the best feeling. The humor of the Red Sox reliever is different than the conversation with Hosmer about him playing pickup basketball on, in his court, because and Brian's making fun of him that he got paid. And, he put the Brooklyn Nets floor, I think it was the Brooklyn Nets floor, on the bottom of, his house there. If you've not listened to Breaking Bats, guys, and we appreciate everyone following us here, Not For Long Media. It's all under the same apron, same umbrella. Check it out. Like Justin said, the early part where they're just catching up, you're like, is Justin here? Like, is Justin alive? Right? Because it's literally just them chopping it up. Like they're literally playing cards and smoking a cigar or whatever. It is really so laid back and so enjoyable for baseball fans out there, and has a little bit for everybody. You're going to have like I said, like you just said, you have the host of MLB Network on, who's fun and energetic and is telling stories about people going to the bathroom with a hot mic on. And then you have people that are, Eric Hosmer and Musgrove and all these different guys on. So props to you guys at Breaking Bats. Again, check out the hat that Jack's wearing. Awesome product. Guys, I want to talk about our sponsor here, Not For Long Media. We have an awesome family of sponsors here at Not For Long Media. We are so thankful for Few Will Hunt, Shots and Giggles in Key West, Florida, ProStar Sports Agency, and our friends at the Original Fudge Kitchen. We are so excited and so thankful to work with all of you guys. Check them out, support them. We look forward to what's next with them. Lots to look forward here at Not For Long Media. Lots to look forward to at Breaking Bats. All right, guys, I'm going to transfer over to what we are going to cover today. There's a few different things. We all have passion for all the different things. I text Jack and Justin throughout the week with little interviews or little tweets or something that I see, just random times of the day of something we're going to talk about. But we can't bury the lead here, because the lead last week was Tom Brady. 10 years, $375 million to do something he's never done before. 10 years, $375 million for something he has never done before. Congrats, Tom Brady. You have done it. You are the man. You are getting paid more to do TV for Fox Sports than he did for his entire football career. That's if he stops playing after this year. Who knows? He could play for another 4 years. Who knows? He could do the Brett Favre, retire, and come back every year. But regardless, congrats to Tom. I saw a tweet, the largest contracts in sports history. You have Messi at $674 million. That's as a player. You have Mahomes, $503 million. You have Mike Trout, $426 million. And you have Tom Brady, $375 million. And that is to do nothing to do with him as a player and his contract. I don't know what other to say than congratulations, Tom. Unbelievable. Initial thoughts from Jack.
I think the biggest thing for me is, and I was talking about this to somebody yesterday, I feel like this is the shift in the tide in the sports media giants, to be honest with you. Fox is going to be, I think, across the board, even like just general shows, Fox is going to be king moving forward, in my opinion. They're going to be taking it back from ESPN. It's just, even you see TNT inside the NBA, like they have Shaq and Barkley. There has never been a player of Brady's stature in that role from the jump, and like long term. Like Michael Jordan was never in the booth. You're seeing Peyton Manning had his Manning cast, but that was a couple years. Like it wasn't like right after. He is going to be the biggest draw. There's games. There have been some people if they have a choice in game, like they'll watch the whatever game Romo's on for CBS because they wanted to hear Romo. There is going to be droves of people going to watch just because they want to hear Brady. They want to hear what Brady has to say about Josh Allen versus Mahomes in like 2026, like whatever game that might be. And I'm excited to see it. I really think he's going to kill it. He's a natural at this sort of. He's very funny. He's quick-witted. And so even if he's a color guy or a play-by-play, I think he's going to be really good at it. And I'm really excited to see what he does with it.
He won't be play-by-play, but I do think he will. They are going to max him out, and they're going to do a lot of creative things. They have a year to figure out how to make this work, to make the $375 million worth it. And I think they're going to make it worth it. I really do. I really think they're going to make it work. And here's why. They're going to take all the ideas from the Manning stuff and the X's and O's, and Tom's going to be calling the big game. So he's going to be, all the meetings he's going to have pre-game are going to be all recorded. They're going to be shown during the game. The broadcast it'll be longer now. They're going to pay for more to get Tom some more airtime. because he's such a huge figure. He's a superstar. He's a celebrity, and he has unbelievable knowledge. He's seen everything. He's the greatest player of all time. You see TNT doing this, paying Gretzky to come onto the TNT booth and create some validity there. The one argument I hear a lot is, do people turn on the TV to hear a color commentary? Hear the color commentary? I think the answer is no initially, but I think with the right people, the answer is yes. And I think in certain markets, they value that more than others. I think certain markets pop the TV on because the game's on. I think other markets, other fan bases, we have Troy Aikman and Joe Buck this weekend. We have Kenny Albert and Greg Olson this weekend. We've had Kenny on the podcast. Love it. If you've not seen the Kenny Albert or heard the Kenny Albert episode, go watch it. It's fantastic. It's an hour long of him just telling great stories. So I'll send it to JA, but my final thoughts on this Tom Brady thing is I think Fox is going to milk all the money out of it. This is nothing. I think it's absolutely nothing for who he is and what he's going to do. We've seen Tony Romo in the past get a huge deal. A great NFL quarterback, Tony was, but this is another level of quarterback. This is another level of brand. When you're going to bring Tom Brady into Fox, like Jack said, I think it changes that dynamic a little bit.
I think this says more about the current state of Fox Sports and how terrified they were when you lose your number one booth combo of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman to ESPN. I mean, when those two guys left, especially Joe Buck, because he still had a year left on his contract and he does the World Series and the Super Bowl, it just must have been a chaotic scene at Fox Sports headquarters. Like, I mean, yeah, they have Kevin Burkhardt, who's really good, but like they didn't have the star power. And I think Buck and Aikman were consistent. And they knew what everybody was getting. And so they're like, crap. And I'm, Peyton and Eli, I think, are both content to do the ESPN broadcast forever because they can sit in their living rooms and play golf and joke around. I do watch the Manning cast. Like I do, going back to your point earlier saying about like tuning into games for the broadcasters. I only watch the Manning cast now. But Joe Buck's on Monday Night Football, so that it's conflict of interest there. But I think if you're Fox Sports, you're looking around, you're like, who can we get to replace the star power? Because I do think that has a lot to do with why people watch games. You're like, I mean, just why not give him $375 million? Why not give him $1 billion? Because he's going to be the best thing that you can have to like market and bring people in. And yeah, I mean, he like literally Tom Brady, he could pick up anything and be good at it. Like he's good at TikTok now. He's just anything the guy does like in front of a camera is awesome. So yeah, I think it's a home run for both sides.
Here's a side note, too, that's kind of popped in my head, and I'll send it to you, Jack, because I know you have a comment on this. He's probably going to be going to L.A. when his career's over. I would assume. Just an assumption. His wife is a supermodel, a celebrity, A-list. Both of them are. L.A. seems like a natural progression. The league is going to L.A. There's rumors the Combine's going to L.A., which is a shame. It shouldn't leave Indy. It's awesome for their community there, and it's awesome for the area. It's awesome for everything Indy, the indoor, the tradition. I love that stuff. But I get it. The reason why they built that stadium there, the reason why there's two teams there, they could put a third and fourth team there if they really wanted to. So I could see him going to L.A., which Fox Sports broadcasts a ton out of. And I just see this being a huge thing where you're going to have a Manning cast. You're going to have a lot of things. They're not going to put any rules and boundaries on it. They're just going to content machine with Tom. Tom, here's your take time. He's going to be like an actor. Show up to the set, do your work. They're going to fly players in. So go ahead, Jack. What do you got for us?
You talk about flying in players. I guarantee you Fox's number one broadcast in 5 years' time, or even not even like almost like they're going to have a Brady Gronk broadcast at some point. It's going to happen.
That's another great point. And I think, too, the 1.2 to touch on this is who are the quarterbacks going to be in the NFC? Because they are the NFC coverage. The AFC is loaded with the star-studded quarterbacks right now. We all know it, right? We followed it this offseason. Jay, you have a comment?
I just think that one part of this whole situation that kind of gets overlooked is how bad does this suck for Greg Olson? Because the guy finally gets an opportunity to be the lead color guy at Fox, and he's got like his dream job, and he's worked really hard at it. And then all of a sudden, they just sign his replacement like at an undisclosed amount of time. So he's just a seat filler now.
He's a seat filler that's going to have unbelievable negotiating at the contract table now, because whatever his deal is, he's going to say, listen, I know I'm not Tom Brady, but I want a bigger deal. So I completely agree, Justin. And I've been able to I met Greg once at practice, a great guy, gracious with his time. super smart, good at what he does. He called some of our games in the XFL. That was really cool. So, yeah, I think I completely agree. But this is what Fox is trying to do. We're trying to load up a star-studded lineup. They're losing, like you said, Buck and Aikman, probably the best two. I think I really enjoy watching them. They're all really good. But you get a guy like they have a ton of stars there. So it's going to be interesting what they do. And they're going to attract more stars because of what they have. Romo has CBS. They'll have Olsen and Brady. It's just the beginning, like you guys said. I think it's just the beginning. There's going to be more guys like this. There's going to be more former players coming out of the booth now than, coming out of the helmet, the cleats to hang them up and right into the booth. But there is nothing like that deal. And that deal is huge for our entire industry because now the level is set. The bar has raised. We all know it. Why do players take the next biggest deal? Because they want to raise the bar. So, round of applause. Tip the cap. Thank you, Tom, from a media company. We appreciate it. I think it affects everybody. Great points by you guys. I'm glad we were able to talk about this because it's stuff I hasn't even crossed my mind, and all I've done is talk about this with people. I digress, and we'll transfer to the NHL playoffs, something that's near and dear to me. Let's see. A few teams advanced. Tampa advances 7 games over Toronto. Florida advances over the Capitals. Before we go, is it over for Ovi and the Caps, Justin?
No.
Is the run over?
Absolutely not. You got 4 more years of Ovechkin. Nick Backstrom will come back healthier. His hip was bothering the whole time. They're going to go out and they're going to get an actual goaltender this offseason, hopefully a Marc-Andre Fleury. So yeah, this is not the end. This is just the beginning.
Okay, love it. Rangers over Pittsburgh, a banged up Sidney Crosby that looked possessed, but Rangers, Panarin scores in overtime. Flyers go sign Johnny Hockey. We'll get into that second. You need premier high-end talent. I don't care if you hire Bruce Boudreau, who's the defensive coach. You need a player at the end of the game on a power play that's going to rip a shot like that to win a game in overtime. That's my public service announcement about the Flyers. I move on. Carolina, your Carolina Hurricanes advance, move forward. They're taking on the Rangers. St. Louis beats the Wild. They'll play Colorado, who swept Nashville, and Edmonton, who everyone thought was going to sweep the Kings, went all the way to the end with the Kings and won. Edmonton and Connor McDavid looked possessed in that game. And then Calgary beat in 7 games. They beat Dallas. So an unbelievable first round, a bunch of game 7s, a sweep from Colorado. I'm going to give my quick picks and why. First, I'm going to start with Edmonton and Calgary. I'm going to take Calgary. I think they have a better team. They have more depth. They have better goaltending. I think Edmonton has premier talent, but not as much depth. Mike Smith is a streaky good goalie. We'll see what he can do. But Calgary in the Battle of Alberta, that's an unbelievable series, folks. You're going to get it a lot of different times, 9:30 Eastern time, 10:30 Eastern time, 8 p.m., 9:30 p.m. So you're going to have some late-night hockey. That is a huge rivalry, massive rivalry, huge for Canada. Now that Montreal's out, now that the Toronto Maple Leafs are out for the 100th year in a row of getting knocked out in the first round. So I'm going to take Calgary. This is a tough one. I think St. Louis is going to play Colorado really hard, but I think Colorado has gone all in and they're a team of destiny. Their goalie's a little banged up. He got banged up at the game that we actually went to. It's not Dubnik. His name slipped my mind, of course. He was in Arizona last year. But I like Colorado in this series. I know it's the favorite pick, but I think St. Louis, I guess I'll give you the games like you do in Chicklets. I'm going to go Calgary in 6. I'm going to go Colorado in 6. I'm going to go Rangers in Carolina. I'm going to go Carolina in 6 again. And then I'm going to go, this is a tough one, Tampa versus the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are an unreal roster. I'm a huge Claude Giroux fan. He's been awesome there for all the haters saying that he's not a playoff player. He's been lighting it up. Oh, man. Tampa's the defending champs back-to-back, going on a three-peat. I think there's some nostalgia there, but I just think Florida's got too much firepower. I think Tampa's got high-end talent. I love the fourth line of Tampa. I love their depth. This is so hard. I think I'm going to go Florida in 7. So a lot of chalk picks there, but they're my picks. I want to get them out. For my non-hockey infatuated guys on the board here, on the comment, like I am, any thoughts? We'll start with you, Justin.
Those are my 4 picks written down before we did this, was your 4 picks. I like Florida a lot. They're gritty. They play a lot of defense. They score goals with your guy, Claude Giroux. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Battle of Alberta. There's nothing better than staying up till like 1 a.m. watching hockey. So I've been doing a lot of that. I haven't really watched any NBA playoffs, so I'm glad Jack had that. So
yeah, see, you and I are on the same page with that, folks. NBA is great, and I'm all for it, but there is nothing like this. I'm happy that Jay is here to defend it. That the NHL playoffs, there is nothing like this, especially this series we're about to see. The Battle of Alberta there's going to be fights. There's going to be old school hockey. So if you're looking for something to dive back into and get that old school hockey feel, this is your series. What do you got, Jack?
I highlighted 2 series just because I'm not going to count. You're the one that's like, I really didn't watch any NHL playoffs to start, but like, you're the one that's like, you keep talking like, I got to try it out. Like, I got to watch some games. So, I mean, the 2 series I really have only had my eyes on just because of how busy an NBA playoffs. Obviously, the Panthers because of Drew. I mean, I'm rooting for Florida. I want the Panthers to make that push. I think he's been playing great this postseason, the games that I've watched at least. It hurts a little inside, but I'm great to see him making a push. It's weird. It's a weird adjustment for me. But, I mean, Edmonton just has always been my number 2 team. I just have loved McDavid. And you mentioned, like, the massive rivalry between them and Calgary. And it's very much like the time test of faith you see in all sports. Is it star power or is it a great team? Which one is better? And you're gonna get a conclusion. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl, and I was funny because we were talking about like with one of my coworkers the other day, just kind of the evolution of sport. We were talking about hockey, and I was like, because we were talking about basketball and like 3-point shooting, and hockey is getting much faster. And McDavid's kind of the pioneer of that because he's the best player. That's his best skill, is his speed, his agility. And it's like he's slowly starting to change how hockey's played because of that. And I think that's something to keep an eye on too.
Great points. I love it. I think the game's also changed too because just like the NBA, you can't grab, you can't tug, you can't pull, you can't hook, you can't get the stick up near the hands. So the penalties have changed the game. It's allowed players to play with more speed, more transition, less physicality. If you're a slow defenseman anymore, they are out of the NHL. There's no big hitter. There's no big lumber. There's no guy clearing out in front of the net anymore. The game has changed. I feel bad for these goalies, man, because they're really good and really talented and huge. They're bigger now than ever, but other than Quick and with the Kings. But I digress. A lot to look forward to the NHL playoffs. I'm glad Jay and I are on the same page. I'm glad Jack is diving in a little bit. Awesome for my high school. A tweet from Darren Rovell, Pennsylvania high schooler Gary Martin. He runs a 3-minute, 57-second mile. Unbelievable. Becoming the 14th U.S. high schooler to do that, to break 4 minutes. Congrats to Gary. He's going to University of Virginia. He's an Archbishop Wood product. I'm so happy for him. I love my school, Archbishop Wood. We don't even have a track at the school. The track team and the football team, we go play elsewhere. And that's fine. It's very normal in the Catholic League of Philadelphia. Unbelievable for Gary. Congrats to him. Props to him. Under 4-minute mile is ridiculous. That is humping. That is a sprint. And can't wait to follow him. Any thoughts? What do you got, Justin?
If one word to describe, I just have how with a question mark. I don't know how it's physically possible to run a sub 4-minute mile. So that's just insane.
What's your one word, Jack?
I mean, I have a little bit to explain it. I feel like I'm Archbishop Wood alum by blood. I mean, I have 2 older sisters that went to Wood. Like, I feel like, I mean, it's right down the road for me. I mean, those are like Colin and I aren't far from each other at all. Or not when he grew up, we weren't far. Shared similar coaches and all that stuff. I mean, it's great for him. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, it also proved. I mean, I've always been the person that's like, oh, the tracks around here slow me down. So I guess I've got to run at Tenet or wherever you guys go and get my speeds up.
What's your fastest mile time? Round table.
I mean, when I was like running, like last summer was like 7 minute, probably like 6:50.
I'm trying. My wife's down here. I'm going to mute this and ask her.
I think while he does that, I think I'm right around 7 or 8. Nothing spectacular.
I would say I'm in the same boat, Jay. I think I could push it pretty good if I had to. If we had some, finances on the line, if there's some prod on the line, I think I could do it. Depends what time of year it is. It depends what I'm training for. I think I could do it. Before in training camp, I probably could get a pretty good mile time going. So congrats to Gary. Unbelievable. That should be talked about worldwide. 14 people ever in the history of our country. Think about that. 14 people run the mile. That's like a standard thing, right? That's not like, like NHL or NFL, excuse me. They're at a game, right? So some of the stats are staggered now because of 17 games. No, the mile is the mile. We all ran the mile in elementary school or middle school or whatever. High school, we had to do it. Props, Gary. Props. Shout out to Archbishop Wood. Proud alum. And we're really proud of you. Congrats, Gary. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a little Premier League. Arsenal just lost, which is fantastic. Tottenham now needs to win or draw this weekend against a team that's already been relegated for them to be in the Champions League, which is unbelievable. I'm jacked about that. But I want to touch on this, and we can't get the link going, but the Women's Premier League record attendance, almost 50,000 people at a Premier League game for women this weekend. It's awesome. But something that's near and dear to my heart, the LGBTQ plus community and how the Premier League handles that and brings acceptance and conversation, how Premier League handles issues of race. Props to the Premier League. They just handle it the right way, it seems. It seems non-controversial. It seems positive. It seems like they're raising money for the right causes. It seems that the players are abreast of all the changes and conversations, and it's a dialed-in attack of how they're going to handle things the right way. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way, but there's a way to do it where it's going to land soft and it's positive and it's moving forward. For example, before the games in the Premier League, every player just drops to a knee real quick to talk about racial inequality and bring that conversation up. The whistle blows, the players stand, they play the game. It's a unified decision from the entire team, the league. Unbelievable. Props. They have the rainbow, right? The gay flag, the rainbow flag, all Premier League colors all around the stadium. It's just accepted. Every team has an alternative flag that's a rainbow color, right? But it's not, it's just done really well. And something that's near and dear to my heart, something that's been a part of my family, that have, to have family members that are gay, to have teammates and brothers that are black men, to have these conversations every day in the locker room. I just challenge the leagues in the United States to do that. Don't worry about the backlash, because whatever they're doing in the Premier League, it works. It's respectful. It's positive. It's moving the right direction. Thank you for letting me talk about that, guys. It's near and dear to me. Okay. I got to send it to J.A. here. Under Armour, they are building a plan, a massive waterfront headquarters in Baltimore, which they already have already. 50 acres, 5 stories, 280,000 square feet, 1,500 employees, a flagship store, stadium-like glass structure, performance center for athletes, employees. They aim to complete it in 2025. I love following front office sports. Follow ours, guys. We have a little similar situation going on at Not For Long Media, the Business of Sports Insider, something I started 5 years ago. Justin, what does Under Armour mean to the state of Maryland?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, Kevin Plank, UMD graduate, was selling like T-shirts out of like the trunk of his car. Now he's a billionaire and he's like financing this whole redevelopment project. It's like Port Covington, I think, is the area in Baltimore where it's at. And I was looking, it's like $5.5 billion or something like that. It's just like the Under Armour headquarters is going to be part of like a larger redevelopment project where they're going to have 235 acres, 45 city blocks, the Under Armour headquarters, a light rail station, mixed use development, like new parks, waterfront area. It's going to be amazing. And it's just like, it's a great American Maryland success story. I love Under Armour. I think they're my favorite of the big three. If you have to go like athletic wear for anything. I mean, so it's, I always like to represent that, but it's going to be so cool to see how that turns out.
Yeah. I wanted to get your opinion on this as someone that was, born and raised in Maryland, now lives in Annapolis, where I'll be living here shortly. Obviously, Under Armour is massive. They sponsor University of Maryland. They sponsor Navy football. They used to sponsor a lot of athletics, including what we had going on at Temple. They had a lot of big brands. They had a lot of upcoming brands. They took off with Cam Newton. They took off with Tom Brady. They took off with Jordan Spieth. That was like the height of everything for them. Those years, probably about 6-7 years ago. Obviously, there's been a crash. There's been a fall. There's been some politics. There's been some drama, but they're still holding strong. They're showing that everyone that, hey, we're going to hold strong. We're going to be a major brand in this company. I think it's really interesting. I think it's big for the city of Baltimore to expand the block and the acreage and to have that Baltimore pride, that Baltimore brand like you're talking about. But now backing it, saying, hey, listen, we're going to recommit to this. We're going to go back. We're going to be around for a while. We're going to stay around. A Maryland product through and through. But I want to hear your thoughts on it, Jay. I think it's an important topic for those that follow our podcast because Under Armour is huge in the business of sports. They're a massive player. They've become smaller, but they're a massive player nonetheless. And appreciate your thoughts, Jay. As we finish up here, again, front office sports, love following them. The world's highest paid athletes of 2022 at number one, Messi, 130 million, LeBron, 121 million, Ronaldo, 115 million, Neymar, 95 million, Steph Curry, 92 million, Durant, 92 million, Federer, 90 million, Alvarez, 90 million, Tom Brady, 84 million, Antetokounmpo, 81 million. Jack, is there anybody on the list that stands out to you? Maybe someone that you think of that should be on this list that is worth more than what they're getting?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is the surprising absence of NFL players, specifically quarterbacks. Like Brady's there, but it's just like you would think Mahomes, Allen, Brady, like the guys that have just received massive contracts would start to crack this list. Matt Stafford, Derek Carr. Like I'm surprised that, like, I don't know if it's just because like the deals really haven't kicked it, but even Mahomes was last year. Like I'm just surprised that these deals, like there's not more of that. I mean, I'm not surprised basketball at all, and it's going to start to get even more insane as guys like Embiid and Steph reach out of their contracts, so they're going to start hitting high 50s, low 60s a year in the NBA. So, I mean, it's going to be drastically changing. I mean, as a slight joke, I'm surprised Tobias Harris isn't up there. I'm so used to seeing Tobias Harris among the most expensive contracts. I mean, literally just the absence of NFL quarterbacks, I think, is the big thing, just outside of Brady.
What do you think, Jay?
It's just surprising to see all these international soccer players making like $130 million a year. It's just hard to wrap my mind around that from like an American athlete perspective, like 130, like 110, like all that stuff. I like the fact that Giannis cracked that list at 81. I love some of like his endorsements that he's doing now. I think he's one of the rising endorsement star, like Hulu, and he's got like headphones, I think, in there too. So yeah, I think it's cool to see the next wave of younger guys like my age come up. And obviously you're going to have like the established guys like the Bradys and the Kevin Durant and the Currys and all that. But the next wave of people, I think that's my favorite part of that.
Now, Colin, with soccer, didn't Holland just sign a brand new massive contract of Man City? I'm sure he's going to be up.
He did. He'll be on the list. It's going to be, there's a couple of things that jump out to me here. One, Antetokounmpo being in a small market and making that amount of money. Awesome. It's a great argument for small market teams. He stayed in Milwaukee. Yeah, to me, I always like the business side of things. The ripple effect that it has on the city of Milwaukee, him staying there is unbelievable. From a vendor to parking to mom and pop shops to the sports store to the ticket people to whatever. It employs all those people. It has a huge ripple effect. And then obviously TV rights and deals and all that stuff. It's great for Milwaukee. It's great for that area. I love thinking about that stuff. I love talking about that stuff. So that's big for him for a small market argument, right? An agent's telling his player, hey, listen, Giannis made $81 million here, and he's one of the top 10 paid athletes in the world, and he played in Milwaukee, a smaller market. You can do it too. Another takeaway, like you said, is the lack of NFL players, but that does not surprise me. Gentlemen, we wear a helmet for a living. We are not as marketable, and that's just how it goes. So if you're wearing a helmet for a living, when you're on TV, you're wearing a helmet. The post-game press conference is not being shown live, maybe a cut up or two, and then debate by everybody else, but our faces are not shown. I'm surprised there's not more soccer players on here. Now that I look at this again, Ronaldo and Messi, of course, are number 2 in the world, but there's soccer stars now with the Premier League and the viewership and all these other leagues, Championship League, Champions League, all these different leagues. I thought there'd be more. So there's a lot of takeaways from there. Again, great discussion. Justin, Jack, anything before we wrap up? Are we good to send this home as the first inaugural episode of the Colin Thompson Show?
I feel like we did a great job covering almost every single sport. I mean, it's very well-rounded. Like you said, we usually always lose the lead and like we'll bury the lead and we'll get lost in one specific. We did a very good job of covering everything today. I feel every sport was touched on.
Bang up job.
Justin, appreciate you joining us from the Breaking Back Bats family. This is the beautiful part about what we do at Not For Long. We get everyone to come on and have some fun. We'll have Brian on here at some point when he gets back after the season comes up for air and gets to be a dad full time, not just virtually. Congrats to Brian and his family again. That's Justin Ayers, Jack Connell. I'm Colin Thompson. Appreciate you guys joining in. We're so thankful for our sponsors, Wealth Advisory Services, If You Will Hunt, Shots and Giggles, ProStar Sports Agency, and the Original Fudge Kitchen. No episode today, just us chopping it up, having a good time. Appreciate everyone supporting our podcast. Thank you.